Now in its 9th year, this is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Yeah, live from Harlem. It's the Ramble with Alex. That's me, Alex Bennett, and we're here until midnight tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, he's all the way out there in San Francisco, California, my hometown. I'm jealous. It's Larry Bubbles Brown. Hello, Lawrence.
Happy New Year, and I'm sure it will be a crappy one.
You're sure it'll be a crappy one?
Even people I know that are optimistic are horrified about the next year.
About the next year and what it brings, yeah. Well,
yes.
They're probably afraid of Trump is what it is, you know, and that possibility.
Well, I think he's looking good in the polls.
Yeah, he's looking good in the polls now. You never know. I mean, I just can't believe that anybody would vote for a guy who has this many charges against him, you know?
It seems to help him.
In fact, I strongly suggest that if he really wants to get elected president of the United States, he kills somebody and get charged with murder. It's just amazing, isn't it?
Well, it's all part of our dystopian.
Dystopian, yeah. Or dystopic.
Yes,
dystopic, I think, would work, too, yeah.
But I think I saw an interview with Nixon. It was just the people back then just seemed so much better than what we've got now.
Well, what I've said is, you know, you didn't like Bush, but compared to Trump, he's not so bad. In fact, neither is Obama, and neither is Clinton, and for that matter, neither is Nixon isn't looking that bad now either, is he? You know,
we're yearning for Gerald Ford. That's how bad it is.
We're yearning for Gerald Ford. Oh man! So how was your New Year, Bubs? No, there he goes. We got hung up on here. Let me call him back. We're having all kinds of troubles today, but this one. Yeah, there we go. It rings again. Yeah.
Okay, we got cut off.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about your service not being that good there.
Yeah.
It sounds great, you know.
Okay.
But that was a dropped call. Let's see how many dropped calls Skype can do in this particular episode. Anyway, I was wondering how your New Year went. Did you work?
I did. I did a gig way out in Brentwood, which is like past Concord, and it was actually not bad.
Is a place named Brentwood?
There's two Brentwoods in California. One where OJ had an incident, and and one up here.
Really? You know, there are towns.
Yeah.
Does this happen to you that you hear about a town in California and you never heard of it?
Yeah, because there's so many of them.
I didn't know there was a Brentwood in Northern California.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And they have a comedy club there, do they? Or what was the occasion?
They have a restaurant. They've been doing comedy there for like 20 years, so they've had a good run.
Yeah. And so they do a New Year's Eve show. And were you the headliner?
Yeah, and I didn't want to take it, but New Year's is not, it's kind of an amateur night. And from what I've heard, people are not going out like they used to on New Year's. And the clubs here are not booking. They used to book fairly big names, and that's not happening anymore.
Yeah. So who was the headliner?
A guy named Michael Pace, very funny guy.
Is he good? Is he new guy?
Yeah, he's good, but he's been around as long as I have, and he's pretty like me. He's pretty much, I think he's pretty much done. He's doing cruise ships, which he said is horrible.
Yeah. Well, cruise ships are something I've been looking into because Marjorie and I have been looking at how to spend our waning years here. And we decide we're going to do a lot of travel. And we look at these boats, and I don't want to get on any of them. Because it's
Why?
like, well, I'm sorry, but I just don't think I want to get on a ocean liner that has a Ferris wheel, or has an ice rink. I mean, I looked at some. I looked at one Norwegian, and they said what they have on the boat, and it's things like there's a basketball court, okay, and I'm going
a pool.
I didn't go on this trip to get back to the life I could have had back home. I want something new and exciting. And all this crap about, and then they have theater, I don't want to see Oklahoma. Are you kidding me? They do theater and they do this and they do that, and you go, what do I need that for?
Everything you have on land, so I didn't need it.
Yeah, and then you're crowded in there with how many people?
In a couple of thousand.
Easily. Try 5,000 on some of them, maybe more.
Oh, that's a small city. So.
Yeah, that is a small city. So so what would I do if there were that many people? I'd probably stay in my stateroom and never come out. So what kind of vacation did I have? So
I never saw the appeal of those things myself. So.
Yeah, I don't get it either. So screw it. So I imagine that if you had to work one, I mean, you're stuck on those things for how long if you're going to work one of those places?
Most guys that do, they tell me you're on there for a week. Sometimes you only do 3 shows, but so you got a lot of time to kill.
Yeah. But, I mean, come on. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Boy, on my computer is coming up saying they want my email or phone number. Okay. All right. I go, but hold on a second. See, this is what I got to deal with. Let's see here now. I'm not going to tell you my number, folks. Okay, and then I sign in, and it's and there's my password. Do not give your password out to anybody, ever. Okay, unless it's something like that where you got to sign into something. Because Marjorie has done a couple of things where she just gives them her number and doesn't look to see if it's like spam or whatever. So, but
wow.
You're probably going to be getting a lot of that now because now you're hooked up full time to the internet, right?
No, I'm. I think I sent you an email last night that I've got off my my high speed.
What'd you do? Go back to dial up?
I'm going back to dial-up. Yeah, I had a trial run and I was done with it. So,
well, you never used it.
Yeah, I did. I looked at some videos and stuff, and I realized then I'd be on the thing for hours looking at YouTube, and I didn't want to do that.
So we're never going to do Zoom with you then?
It doesn't look like it. No.
So you gave it up?
I gave it up.
God,
you should. Trial period.
You should get the Luddite of the Year award for crying out loud.
I know.
Jeez almighty, Larry. Anyway, we'll get back to that. We'll circle back to this in a moment. But no, so you were playing up at this club, and the guy said that when he went on a cruise, he only had to do like 3 shows, and that's fine.
Yeah,
but when
3 shows for a week, yeah.
Yeah, but when you're not doing the shows, you're stuck on the goddamn boat.
Yeah, and if they don't like you, everyone knows you, so you can't escape.
You walk down the hallways or whatever, and people are saying, "Not really good last night, man. You bombed." It's like when you do when you do a show. Let's say it's the worst show you've ever done. You get off stage, you figure that's one for the books. You get in your car and you go home. Being on a ship is like doing your act, having it be the worst show you've ever done, and then have everybody come home with you.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what it's like. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
I did a show a couple of years ago in Santa Rosa. It was so bad. I literally said, good night. I was parked really close on the street to the club. I walked off the stage, out the door, got in the car. I was gone before the MC said good night.
Yeah, well, that's what happens. I can't imagine you bombing very often at this point in your life.
I've bombed so many times, I'm numb.
Well, no, but I'm saying that you've done this so many times that don't you have baked into your act certain things you can do that you know are winners that never lose?
I tried, but nothing was working that night. So.
Folks, you can tell when a comic is bombing when all of a sudden he goes from one joke subject to another joke subject. You know what?
Yeah.
And after a while, he's just doing every piece of material that he ever thought worked before, but it's not working now.
Yeah, it's the worst feeling in the world. So.
But I'm saying that you are you've been doing this for so long, you shouldn't have that problem. Okay.
No, I shouldn't. I should be, but that's why I think I'm a mediocre comic. So.
Well, no, but you're not a mediocre comic. I'm going to tell you something. We just watched. We sat here watching one of the worst comedy specials I've seen in many a year. When I tell you who it is, you're going to be shocked. Dave Chappelle.
Really?
This is like his latest comedy special on Netflix. And this
is an hour?
He just wasn't funny. He was fun, okay? And one of the things he does, or he was doing in this special, that I can't stand when a comic does it, is he tells a joke and then laughs at it.
Oh, really? Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about? You know comics who do this, right?
I've seen comics do that, yeah.
Tell a joke, and then they laugh at it, and that's the cue to the audience to laugh.
That's a cue to the audience, yeah. It's annoying.
And then they laugh, okay? But it's a false way of getting a laugh. The best way of getting a laugh is say something funny. Well, he wasn't saying much that was funny in this special. What I said to Marjorie was, you're seeing the end of Dave Chappelle's career. He's run out of material. And it really was, I couldn't help but think of you, for instance. You do your act, you have to go up and get genuine laughs. Chappelle, all he has to do is show up as Dave Chappelle. So he has no idea what's really funny and what isn't funny because they'll laugh at him saying anything just because he's Dave Chappelle and they probably paid $100 to come see you. Larry Bubbles Brown, when he gets on stage, has to get on stage to an audience who maybe never heard of Larry Bubbles Brown, and you've got to make them laugh. And when you make them laugh, you're truly funny. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I used to say that, remember we used to do those shows, at the Great American Music Hall and places like that. And I used to go up and do 5 minutes. And everybody say, boy, you really killed with that 5 minutes. I said, yeah, but if I tried to do this in Reno, Nevada, nobody would laugh. Everybody's laughing because it's me, Alex Bennett. They're laughing at Alex Bennett. They're laughing at the character I've created. But when I go to Reno, they wouldn't know that character at all. I mean, anywhere outside of the signal of our radio station, they wouldn't get what I was doing. But I could make people laugh because, so I got laughs dishonestly, okay? You get them for real. When you get a laugh, it's because they found you funny, and not because you're Larry Bubbles Brown. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
How do you feel better about yourself?
A little better. And what you were saying about he could be out of material, I think there's a big thing now, like comics like Louis C.K. and they try to write a new hour every year. And Steve Martin said the greatest comic has maybe 2.5 hours of material. Then they're just hitting the same notes over and over again. So
Yeah.
I don't think people have that much material.
Well, that's why Steve Martin got out of stand-up. He said I had done 3 turnarounds on the act, and I felt I had said everything I ever had to say, and now it was on to the rest of my career. You know, so and you remember him as a stand-up comic. The man was a sensation. I saw him perform out at the Nassau Coliseum in front of maybe 15, 20,000 people.
Yeah, he was like the first comic that hit as big as a rock band.
Yeah.
He was like a sensation.
Yeah. So,
like 77. He was so huge.
Yeah. And he also said that it got to a point where he could just do certain things and it would make them laugh because it was playing your greatest hits. Like he go, well, excuse me, you know, and then everybody would laugh. But there was nothing funny about, well, excuse me. What was funny was they were them relating to him in another piece on Saturday Night Live that he did where that was the punchline, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So he felt that it was just too easy to get a laugh. I mean, it had gotten to the point where it wasn't any fun being a stand-up anymore. But you've never gotten to that.
I wonder how.
Yeah, what?
No, I wonder how far he could have ridden that. So.
I think he couldn't have ridden it much longer, you know, and I think he knew that too, that he had to make that jump into movies. It's a very smart career, okay?
Yeah, well-run career for sure.
Well, I mean, he wasn't a stupid man. He knew what the realities were. He was this absolute sensation that was filling, you know, 30,000 seat auditoriums and getting paid lots of money, but that, you know, he had to leave that behind. He had to go to something new, and that was movies. And he did very well in movies, you know, and to this day I think he's very good at what he does, you know, so, which is banjo playing.
That would be disappointing to go see Steve Martin get the banjo. Then.
Well, you're going to get the banjo. There's no question about it. You're going to get the banjo, but he happens to be a pretty good banjo player. Although the banjo is
That's what I've heard. Yeah,
the banjo is one of the easiest instruments to play. My father, I was always amazed by him because he chose to play the hardest instrument they say there is to play, and that's the violin.
Someone told me that last night, actually. Because I said, God, it must be great to play an instrument. I said, what's the easiest and what's the hardest? And the violin's the hardest.
The easiest, supposedly, is the banjo. You know, so
really, wow.
But
I thought drums would be, but then someone said drums are actually kind of hard.
Well, if to play drums well, to just go clunk, 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 I guess is easy. But to play them well and to come up with rhythms that nobody else has come up with, you know, it's very difficult. But so I always was amazed by my father because he didn't start playing the violin till he was like 19, and he learned it well enough to read music and everything else, you know. And had a nice career as a musician. But then, you know, I often like to tell the story that what happened to my father's career as a violinist was that when they got rid of orchestras, they went to bands. You know what the difference between a band and an orchestra is?
No.
Strings.
No strings?
No strings. A band has no strings. A orchestra has strings. Like when, what's his name on the Letterman show used to call it, Paul Schaefer and the CBS Orchestra. It really bothered me because it's not an orchestra, you know. And I hate to see us bastardizing terms, but that's just me.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, it just seems like people like music much more than they like talking. So it'd be, I think being a musician would be much more fun than being a comedian.
Yeah. So was your New Year pretty good then? I mean, did you go over all right and so on?
Yeah, I only had to do 20 minutes, so I did 20, and I said goodnight, and I drove home.
Didn't even see the closing act, huh?
No, I did not. I didn't want to be there for that. I hate the New Year's thing.
Did they?
Well, we used to do a New Year's show at the Palace Fine Arts with you, remember?
Yeah, yeah. But then I always held a little party afterwards and things like that, you know.
Yeah. The crowds that came out for those shows were pretty good. But a lot of New Year's shows, they're just people that come out once a year, and they're not really comedy fans. And some of the shows could be pretty bad.
Yeah, well, but we also used to have pretty good people on the show, so there was a reason for you to stay around just to hang out with them, you know.
Yeah, so we had like Dave Attell, and we had a good lineup there.
Did we ever have Louis C.K.? I don't think so. No.
I don't think so, no.
But Dave Attell, we used him, especially on one show that I remember. And what I remember about him was he sat out in the hallway all by himself.
Smoking.
Smoking and sulking before he went on. And then he went on, and, you know, I figured I'm paying this guy. I hope he can perform tonight. He just doesn't look happy, you know. And then he went on and did this incredible act, you know. And, you know, like he would be on one. If I had an ideal show, I'd put him on, you know, as an act.
Yeah, I think he's still considered probably the best club comic in America right now.
Isn't Louis C.K., who had nothing but trouble, okay, in, you know, with this whole Me Too thing and everything like that, you know, I heard that he's doing as well as he's ever done on the road.
That's what I've heard, yeah.
He's just killing on the road. You know, it's just that he can't do his TV shows and things like that. He had like 5 shows on the air at one time. You know.
He had so much going on now. Then I think he won a Grammy last year for his comedy record.
Mm-hmm. So it hasn't hurt his stand-up career, but what it hurt was these people who own TV networks and so on go, well, we can't have him on. He's a you know, lightning torch or whatever. You know, he's a bad deal because
do they ever forgive him or not?
For pulling out his penis? They should have forgiven him the minute he did it. You know, I mean, would you pull your penis out in front of 3 women? No. Would I?
No, there's not.
No. So there was something in his character that made him feel he could do it. Okay? Not that he had any real license to do it. These women were only there because they were comedians as well, and they were trying to talk to him about comedy and things like that and pick his brain and so on. And then at one point he said, listen, if you don't mind, I'm going to pull my penis out of my pants here. And none of them said, no, don't. Okay? Or none of them.
Well, they probably didn't think he was really going to do it.
Well, then he pulled it out, and none of them left. You know, so I mean, what damage was done there? He gave them full warning, and that was enough to ruin his entire career. Are you kidding me? But it's these TV people. We can't have him on here. He'll give us a bad reputation. Yeah, like every television executive pulls his penis out of his pants. Well, maybe they do. Now that I think about it, but I mean, it's amazing business, and I really felt sorry for Louis C.K. You know, I felt he didn't deserve that. All right.
Well, I'm glad he's come back.
And the women had a good story. They go, guess what I saw last night? Louis C.K.'s dick. Oh, how big was it? Well, it's not that big, but it looked like it could do the job. You know, I mean, it's like Frank Sinatra used to come on to women all the time. And none of them ever got upset because they just went on and told their friends, guess who came on to me the other day? Frank Sinatra. You know, so
yeah, that's a good story.
All I'm saying is that, you know, I just felt so bad for him. You know, I feel bad for a lot of these guys. But anyway, we can talk about that maybe next time because we're running out of time here. We got about a minute. So anyway, so we finally found out that Larry Bubbles Brown spent his New Year's Eve working and then getting in his car and going home. And when you got home, did you do anything? Did you have yourself a glass of champagne? No.
No. I never celebrating New Year's was not one of my favorite things.
Not mine either. Amateur night. That's what we call it.
For sure. Yeah.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's Larry Bubbles Brown. You know what he is? He's a comedian. He's very funny. If he's ever playing anywhere near you, lock up your daughters. Okay? Thanks, Larry.
Thanks, Alex.
Now in its 9th year, this is GabNet, the great American broadcast network. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Well, there you go. Larry Bubbles Brown. Thank you, Larry, and we'll see you next week. Hello, everybody. This is Friday. Jay, I get through this today, and then I can just sleep for the whole weekend. I've been so tired today. I don't know what it is. Boy, I turn on the TV set, and we start watching like a movie. We're watching this very funny cartoon. I don't know if you've ever seen it. If you haven't, try and search it out. It's on Netflix right now. It's available. It's called Sausage Party. And it's an animated film, and it is the dirtiest animated film you will ever see. Okay? We watch that. But as it's on, I'm going to sleep. I'm nodding off, Can't figure out why I'm nodding off. I'm just nodding off. And then we're through with that. And then I go into the other room and go watch some other stuff, and I start nodding off again. I can't keep from sleeping today. So if I nod off during this show, I've decided it has something to do with watching television. There's something with my eyesight or something that's causing it to be a problem. Anyway, let me bring in a whole bunch of people waiting. Oh, boy. We got a whole ton of people just waiting to get on right now. And they're all the same people that we have most of the other times, but a few that we haven't seen in a while, for instance. Jason, for instance, is here. Wave, Jason, so they can see you.
So I'm not showing up as owner?
No, you're not showing up as owner. You're showing up as Jason. And Jeff's here, and Josh is here, and Charlie is here, and Vernon. Hello, Vernon. And Brian Neary is here as well. Hello to all of you. What'd you do on, Josh? What did you do on New Year's? Because we haven't talked to you since New Year's.
Didn't really do anything, actually.
Yeah? How many people here actually did something on New Year? Raise your hand. Well, you did, Brian. Where did you go?
Went to a party. Went to a party.
Yes. Do you ever find
that garden party, huh?
Do you ever find that New Year's parties though are any fun?
Yeah, my friend was there, and then we just started saying a bunch of rookies because, too many drunk people.
Oh, too many. Were you drunk too?
Not at that time.
What do you mean, not at that time?
That was later.
That was later, huh? Okay.
No, I was good. I didn't drink that much.
Just buzzed.
Okay, there's Kevin. Kevin's just joined us. Boy, nice bunch of people tonight. Well, you can start talking. I'm going to go to sleep.
Wake up.
Yeah. And you went to a party, right, too, Jeff? Yeah.
No, Pam and I had a party between us.
Oh really?
Ooh.
No. Okay, no details, please.
No details.
Did you have your browser on at that time?
Yeah,
It was for his OnlyFans page.
Yeah. So anyway, and Marjorie and I talked about this the other night. Marjorie and I just stayed home. Then I did that show that we did here. So you know, at least it gives me a chance to work on New Year's.
I was gonna try to call in, but I would have got in trouble with the wife.
Why would you get in trouble with the wife?
It's New Year's Eve, man.
It's
Gotta
New-
be there for the countdown.
Well, she could have come on here and count down with us.
With us, yeah.
You know. Yeah, you're still pussy whipped. Yeah, you're still as always, right?
Yep.
Well, if most men would probably have to agree that they are pussy whipped. I mean, if the wife wants something, she gets it, right? Because guys don't want to argue.
Nope.
Guys want
Yes,
to avoid,
dear. Okay, dear.
right?
Whatever you say,
right?
dear.
You'll admit you're wrong. You'll do anything to avoid conflict. And women know this about guys, and they take advantage of that.
They do.
Yeah, they do. Take it from our good friend
Give me a beer,
there,
woman.
Charlie, who I'm sure it sounds like he's been
I'm
married.
waiting for one to hit him in the side of the head.
Told you to give me a beer, woman. Right now.
Oh my God.
Where are you now, Kevin? You're not usually in that location. Is that your house too?
I'm up in Oregon dropping off my daughter at school.
Oh
Oh,
boy.
you've been traveling all over the place.
And well, his daughter
Yeah.
has become a full-time job for him. You know.
Yeah.
Hey, Kevin,
Yeah,
can I
it's
ask
getting
you a
crazy.
question? Your
Mhm.
daughter's doing marching band in college, right?
Yeah.
Is she getting paid for it at all? Like through scholarships or anything?
No. No, she got scholarships
Seriously, huh?
from academic scholarships, but
But
nothing
I
from,
feel like the marching band should be getting scholarships to be out there doing
I
their
agree with you
entertainment that they're doing.
100%.
Yeah, that's like my
I-
kid. I think he's on the path to be going to U of M, and he's doing marching band. And U of M's marching band drum major is actually from the same school my kid is going to. So I feel like hey, have him go out there, be on your marching band. He's entertaining the crowd during your football games that are making all this money. So give him some money too to help out with his education.
Well, if I'm not
Yep,
mistaken,
I agree.
the players now they get scholarships, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, they get money. They can go out and make money now.
Yeah, now they can make money. They couldn't do that in my day.
Yeah, they can do endorsements and
Yeah.
things like that. Yeah.
Yep.
But my question is, I mean, sure, the band probably should get some kind of scholarship credit or whatever.
They make us sound like, oh, well, you're getting paid you get free travel to away games that we go to and any type of extra games. From when I was talking to one of my nieces, she's going to be in the marching band for U of M. But I think she is actually getting some kind of scholarship for being in the marching band, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they don't. Not U of O. They don't do that. I
think it's
don't know that she might be able to try and earn one somehow, but
I think it's only like $2,000 or something like that, but that's still
Yeah.
$2,000 that's not coming out of my pocket.
Good help.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Oh, that's something.
But
That's
they treat it like athletics. I mean, they do
Yeah,
give
it's
you
a
credit
lot
for being
of
Yeah,
athletic.
practice and do all
It
that
is a
stuff on the
ton of
side.
work.
Yeah.
I was fighting for that in high school.
Well,
And
they weren't
they
paying.
finally recognized in the high school. They finally recognized that this year at the high school she was at.
But
They're actually giving them credit for athletics and taking physical education.
Right.
correct me if I'm
It
wrong.
is.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Football players got scholarships, or athletic players, I mean basketball players and so on.
Yeah,
They got scholarships, but they didn't get paid for it.
No.
And let's face it, what are they doing when they're playing football? They're facing definite brain injury.
yeah.
Okay,
Well, they're
and then
making
they're
money for
not
the
getting
school.
any. You're not getting compensated for it. Come on.
Yeah, but I think Jason was starting to say it more than anything is they have jerseys, right? They have all this other merchandise that the schools are selling. Like Reggie
Yeah.
Bush is the good example. They're selling all his stuff, and he wasn't making a dime from anything.
Yeah, yeah.
For years, many of the USC players would be suspended for taking
Yeah.
cars and money from alumni.
Yeah.
Reggie.
And even they had national championships taken away from them. And
Wow.
yeah,
Well, You know, I mean, I think that they should get paid. I especially because, as you say, they make money off a jersey with their name on it that they sell at a game, for instance.
These bigger schools, man, they
Yeah.
make millions
Oh,
off
yeah.
of football games.
Yeah.
And TV, right? TV rights.
TV rights, yeah.
Yeah.
Schools get
I
paid
mean,
for that.
But
What about the
video
minor
was-
sports? You know, what about like water polo and things like that, where they
Yeah.
work just as hard?
Yep.
They don't make
Yep.
money for the school though.
No,
I see. Yeah. Okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
I don't think the water polo head coach gets paid what the football head coach does.
No, he doesn't.
Wow.
No.
Oh well. You know.
I mean, they handed her, geez, I don't know, $600-700.
All right, hold on a second. I got to do something here. I turned something on and nothing. I get all these problems. Wait a minute. Hold on. Is this it? Unmute site. Well, wait a minute. So why is that coming through? Is it okay now? I guess it is.
I haven't heard nothing.
I've never heard anything.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, but there was some audio coming through here, and I was trying to kill it, and I'm just wondering if it's going to come back again.
It must have been music, and Zoom filtered it out.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, I'm okay. All right. I thought that I heard people talking over each other. Let me see here. Oh, here comes Alan. Okay. Boy, we got a lot of people tonight. This is amazing. So,
I was going to ask. I was surprised not to see him. I was be like, I'm a week or two behind. Did something happen?
yeah.
Alan's not here.
So, Josh, what do you think's going to happen in the Supreme Court with this whole thing now? Since the Supreme Court has said they're going to take Trump's appeal.
Well,
Yeah.
incredibly hard to say.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of it will depend on the specific, nature of or scope of what they look at, or, what they agree to look at, for example. So, I don't know. I'd really kind of have to dig into it because it's sort of
States control the
complicated.
elections, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is the thing about him not being able to get on the. Specifically, this case is what? The Colorado case.
I believe that was the one that I saw the headline that it was accepted.
Yeah.
The appeal would be accepted. So, trying to think on the Colorado, because there were a few of these. The Colorado case.
Because that's already met the Supreme Court, so there's no other court to be able to appeal to, right? Because then the other states what was the other state that was just the Secretary of State that
Yeah, that was
kicked them off,
me.
and so now they have to go through the whole entire court process instead of but Colorado's already at the Supreme Court, so where else is it going to go?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But like I said, I think that's going to be the tough point right there is states' rights, or the states control the elections and stuff, and that's where it wasn't. Was it Jimmy Carter who did watch the polls in other countries and stuff, but said that they wouldn't do it in the United States because there's too many different rules for every different state?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, could it come down to states' rights here, Josh? I mean, after all, doesn't Colorado have the right as a state to say he can't run in their state?
Well, I mean,
No.
I don't know that it will really be a states' rights argument.
Well,
It'll probably be more because, I mean, a states' rights argument is very broad. And I think that the way that you usually win with the court and the court's preferences is to normally look at the most narrow question that they can. So I think the question will probably revolve around interpretation of the language within the amendment that says, the sentence about someone engaged in an insurrection, et cetera, being ineligible. And, 5 people will tell you, well, that's really clear, and then the next 5 people will tell you, no, that's not very clear.
Just tourists.
It's just as unclear to those people that it's clear to. In other words, both sides honestly believe that they're right, I think. So it isn't as simple as yes or no. So the adjudication of it is going to be fairly complex. So that's why I'm saying they typically will narrow it down to the smallest amount of questions possible. Typically, I mean, they obviously they can do whatever they want, but I'm just saying typically. So I think that it'll focus more on an interpretation of the clause within the amendment and what constitutes insurrection and who has the power to make that decision within states.
Okay, well, supposedly this was only used one time against one person, and I think that was Jefferson Davis, wasn't it?
No, that might be correct. I don't remember, honestly.
I think there's 5 people. It's been
5 people. There were 5 people.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there were several congressmen that were kicked out of Congress.
Yeah,
it might have been more. I mean, there were certainly,
but none of them had to go to court and be proven guilty of anything for that to
that's
apply.
correct. Right.
See, I guess that's where I would disagree. Where, me personally, I would say yes for the way that that's set up right now is states' rights, and it really should not be. But in the same aspect too is, if they want to base it on the 14th Amendment with insurrection and all that, I hate Trump, but he has never actually been found guilty yet.
Yes, but neither was Jefferson
He was never
Davis.
prosecuted. He was never convicted, but he was denied. He was denied the right to run for president.
I would say that he should have had the right to be able to be convicted through the court, and then once he's convicted through the court, then 100%.
Yeah, but
it doesn't say that though.
You see, the thing is, this is a constitutional amendment. And so it becomes law.
But it says if you have done this certain thing, you cannot run. So they have to actually
be convicted.
Well, see, I guess that's where I would kind of disagree.
But
something like that, you would have to actually be convicted and say you're guilty of this, and then yes, now you cannot run.
Let's go back to our Supreme Court expert, Josh. Josh, how does that sit with you? I mean, do you think that because originally all these 5 other people weren't able to run for office, but they also weren't found guilty in a court of law? But did they have to be because there was an amendment of this nature?
Well, I don't think that you have to have been convicted. I mean, I don't know how some justices will feel about that. I don't think that you have to have been. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't think in this particular case it would be extremely helpful if there were a conviction. I mean, I think that if there were a conviction attached, that, and that's probably, I mean, I'm sure the court would wish for it very much so, okay? That to happen before that date so that they could then say, there was a conviction here in a federal court, by the way, not a state court. I think that it would be tremendously helpful, but I don't know that it's necessary personally, and I think you can make the argument constitutionally that it's not necessary, and that if it were absolutely necessary, I think that you could make a decent argument that the people who wrote the amendment were very aware of the fact that these trials were probably not going to happen, that by the wishes of Lincoln and others, that we sort of just dispensed with that affair and we didn't drag the nation through, one trial after another, and that the amendment in its spirit was meant basically to take care of. That was their punishment. That was sort of Lincoln's thinking too. Now, he didn't write them, but I'm just saying, in his spirit, I think that they said what he wanted to do was say, okay, the war is over. Welcome back to the United States of America. You can serve in some government, but there's some punitive punishments here, right? There are certain things that you just can't do anymore. So, I mean, it would have been an interesting.
I haven't read the amendment, but does it apply to all publicly?
See, that's gonna be a toughie too, because it does,
officers. It's officers of the government. It says.
Officers of the government.
But it does spell out some other seats too, though. So they might try to sit there and say, "Hey, these were
specific," but then the last word is that, or any other office.
Yes, it's specific and then general. Like,
I mean, I saw, one argument that the Trump legal team, I believe, in one of the briefs is making the argument, or is going to, or did, or something. That, it's like, oh, yeah, we can see all that, but that doesn't apply to the president. They keep coming back to this, but it doesn't apply to the president. And it's just like...
that doesn't make sense.
I hope that's the argument they make. Honestly,
somebody said that's an absolutely stupid argument.
Right, that's what hopefully, by all means.
That's what they say with everything. They think he's immune of everything.
It's a stupid argument.
That's what I'm saying. I might write that brief for him if they're... I'll do it for free.
But it seems like almost a common sense argument too, though, because if it spells out senators and congressmen, but you didn't say president, so...
No, but it says all other.
Yeah.
I've read it many times. It says names specifics, and then it says or any other elected officer or something like that.
As an officer of the United States, or as a member.
Well, now the question would then be who was guilty of this. For instance, if you were Jefferson Davis, obviously that's probably who it was written to apply to. But let's say you were just a soldier in the Confederate Army. Mm-hmm. Were you part of the insurrection?
Well, you obviously were. That's what I'm saying. There's the complications here. I mean, you obviously were, but, it was just sort of, it wasn't well defined. Again, we have another issue that is unfortunately has a decent amount of ambiguity there. It's ambiguous. Again, some people can get worked up because they don't like Trump or they love this other person. Oh, it's clear as day. Well, it's like I said, but go ask 5 other people. And I'm not saying I don't agree with you. I'm just saying they see it differently, and, they have a genuine belief there, and they have some valid points, so it's obviously it's not as easy.
Vernon has his hand up
all the time.
I disagree with the assumption that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment is ambiguous. It is spelled out that if you take the oath of office of any office to support the Constitution of the United States, and then you engage in an insurrection or rebellion against the same, or give aid and comfort to the enemies thereof, you cannot hold office.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is, at the time that there were people who fall under, many people who fall into that category, who served in the Confederate government or the Confederate Army, who after the war came back to hold federal office. Not the presidency of the United States, but there were members of the Confederate government or the Confederate Army who served in high offices of government, state and national, after the war, side by side with the people who wrote the amendment, and none of them threw their hand up and said, that guy can't be here.
Congress can vote by 2/3 of each house to remove such disability. So the question would be, did these people who served, did they get that exemption from the Congress?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any.
Okay, let me.
I'm just saying they were welcomed back, and I'm not saying it was with open arms. There was no parade or anything. I'm just saying, I'm just giving you the historical data. Whether or not I would want those people there is besides the point. I'm just trying to provide the data, if you will. There were people that led armies in the field, and 5 years later were serving in high office of government. And the people who wrote the amendment that you're saying, or other people are saying, not saying I even, disagree completely, were standing there when they did it. And like I said, they didn't throw a fit. I mean, they just kind of look the other way.
Yeah.
So you're saying that establishes a precedent.
Well, I mean, it happened. You know, I mean,
Well, here's a couple of questions I would ask. I more than anyone else would hope that Donald Trump couldn't run for president, wouldn't be allowed to run for president, and but nevertheless, he is going to be running for president. There's no question about that, unless something happens between now and then. He's going to be the nominee of the Republican Party. Do we really care about 2 states saying he's got to be taken off the ballot? He can't run in those states because those states.
There's more than 2. Illinois voted yesterday to take him off the ballot. The legislature in Illinois.
Well, the problem is, I mean, I agree with you, but I'm just saying I think the problem is that it does need to be settled, because I think if not, what will happen is you will have people saying, well, Biden has to come off the ballot, and everyone here will say, oh, he didn't commit any. Oh, yeah, he commits insurrection against the government every day. He won't do anything about the southern border.
Just look at the southern border.
He's derelict of his duty in the southern border, and he's an insurrectionist, and he can't run. And
but that has nothing to do with upholding the Constitution of the United States.
Agree, but they'll make that argument, and there'll be a hell of a lot of people in this country that'll shake
all I'm saying is, do we really care that he can't run in these states? I mean,
no, it doesn't say the amendment doesn't say they can't run. What the amendment says is you cannot hold office. So even if you get elected, you can run for office and you can get elected in those states, but you can't hold the office if you win.
Right.
Hold what office? Presidency?
Whatever office you're running for.
So what happens? What happens in Colorado? Do they then close their eyes and say he's not president right now?
That argument is saying that he should be able to run.
I agree with Josh to the extent that I feel a little uncomfortable with not allowing him to run in these states, because to begin with, those are states which didn't vote for him anyway.
It's just going to be more fuel to the fire of the people who say it's a stolen election too.
And that too.
I don't think the Supreme Court should get any politics into it, though. If they do, there's going to be a rebellion.
That's supposed to be why they are lifetime appointments, is so they'll be above politics.
Well, they're not going to be above politics, are they? Because this is the guy that gave them their job.
Yeah, you know how that that's been going on.
Personally, I don't know that that'll really be a critical factor, because the job is now the job. I mean, he can't do anything about it. I mean, if they make a ruling not in his favor, or 5 rulings not in his favor, and he gets reelected and he gets back in, what can he do?
Well, if he throws the Constitution out, he can do whatever he wants.
But I mean, he can't.
Trump thinks he can arrest
fire those folks. So I mean, they're exempt from that move. I mean, what this will come down to a lot of is they'll get to have their day arguing over, their plain reading and their textualism and their strict constructionist. And I mean, these are the ways that a lot of these folks really dig into what was meant, which is where I'm saying there are certain justices that the way they interpret things are going to have some issues when they say, listen, the people who wrote this amendment 10 years after they wrote this amendment sat right next to a person who 10 years before that wore a Confederate uniform and rode on a horse and said, charge, and they didn't lose their mind. So why are we losing our mind today? I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying they're going to ask the question. And the question is at least pertinent. Now, I'm willing to hear
the argument about it being pertinent.
I'm just saying it's a pertinent question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but the question here is that how many of those people, when this was originally written, what was it written for? It was written for people who were in the in the what do you call it, the Civil War.
Yeah.
You know, they were insurrectionists. Was it written for today? You know.
But you know, one thing I can say, Alex, is even back then when it was written, a Confederate flag was never rolled through the Capitol.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it was written for all time, you know, but it
as well as the rest of the Constitution.
But that by its nature means, though, that it is difficult sometimes to apply it practically to a world that is drastically different than that one.
You can say the same thing about the Second Amendment.
I'm just
I would
saying
say Second Amendment.
Yeah.
At that time, you could only shoot one bullet at a time. I think that's the way it should go back to.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
it's just, you know, look, I mean, I don't want to see a Trump presidency. I'm not even saying I'm not for I mean, honestly, there's some pretty decent arguments to be made for this. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I'm not in favor of it. Okay.
I'm hoping if something comes out of it, it's maybe universal voting rights and it's one rule across the country and everybody is on the same page.
You know, don't anyone take the wrong impression that I'm trying to make. I actually slowly have been looking into some pretty strong argument that I think, you know, there are a lot in the right here and maybe kind of working that way. But I'm just saying any person academically or whatever who's going to make such an argument has to be able to sit down and ask themselves what is going to be every counter argument to this, and I need an answer for it, right? So I'm just trying to search for those, you know, questions. You know, you can't disprove my theory, and here's why. I've got all the evidence, you know. I mean, but some of them are going to be really tough. Is all I'm getting at, you know. That's all.
Yeah. Now here's the other question. Is not Trump painting himself into a corner? If the Supreme Court rules that it's okay for a state to say you can't run because they deem that you were an insurrectionist, okay, doesn't that then apply to every state in the country and he won't be able to run in any of them?
Well,
no.
If the Supreme Court sides with Colorado, yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's what that
if they decide with Colorado, so that means that no state can run him on
No, that would mean that every state could make up their own mind if they want to have him on their ballot or not, I would say. But Charlie's going to lose a digit if he has his hand up any longer.
Yeah, well, his toes are gone already, so a few fingers wouldn't make much of a difference. Yes, Charlie, I'm sorry. You were over on the side and I didn't see you.
The way I look at it is if you have a bank guard who has sworn to protect the bank against bank robbers and he ends up joining a gang to rob the bank, does he get to then come back to his bank job as a bank guard?
Yeah. The next week?
Is that what you want? He's already signed up with these robbers to rob the bank. That failed. So he's going to then come back for his job as a bank guard.
I'm trying to think if that's a good argument, Charlie.
Well, that's basically what happened. He's the president.
Well, no, because you're applying it to another situation and a hypothetical one at that. You know, here we're not talking about hypotheticals. Here we're talking about. The bank guard
takes an oath to guard the bank.
Mm-hmm.
He breaks that oath by trying to rob the bank. You're going to let him come back and expect him to obey an oath to guard the bank again? Which is what we'd be doing if we let Trump
to begin with, in the bank, I'm sure he didn't take an oath. Okay.
I don't know. When I worked for a bank as a teller, I had to take an oath.
Did you have to take an oath? Really?
Hell yes.
What do you mean? You had to raise your hand and everything?
Yeah, I had to agree to not abscond with funds. I mean,
no, but I mean, did you have to swear an oath? Did you have to?
Thousands of dollars in cash every day.
But not stealing money from the bank is a given. Okay.
You know. Not trying to overthrow the American government should be a given too.
You're going to uphold the Constitution. That's a given that you shouldn't be trying to overthrow it.
And then him being the organizer of that speech on, January 6th, with Rudy Giuliani coming out there is specifically saying trial by combat.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
you
but
just
that-
you
but
threw it out
that's
the way. You were an
something-
insurrectionist right then and there. Trump organized all that. These were the speakers that he chose to be out there to be speaking, to start instigating what happened. Trial by combat. It's done. It's over with. But I would like to see it go through a court system and him to be convicted,
Yeah.
because that's the American way.
Well, we're going through the court system now.
But and then that's my argument with myself too, is I don't think Colorado should be able to do what they did because he has not been convicted, but because it was a court that said that, are they actually convicting him in what's it called when they're not there at the trial?
In absentia.
Yes. Are they convicting him in absentia by saying he can't be on the ballot?
Well,
So maybe
courts are allowed to make a ruling on a case without having a trial. In the case of Trump in New York, the judge has already said he's guilty because he didn't go for he went for a trial by judge, and so the judge made what's it called? It's a certain
Summary
kind of
judgment.
Summary judgment, and that you could consider what went on in Colorado a summary judgment, that the highest court in that state dictated that he had committed a crime. You know.
No,
Yeah,
what
when you
the, what
said
the
that,
Colorado
you-
Supreme Court said, that the 14th Amendment says that he cannot hold office. Therefore, we're going to leave him off the ballot because it's pointless to allow him to run in our state if he cannot hold the office.
Does that say if you engage
or aid and abet?
or aid and
and he
abet?
definitely
Okay,
aided and
okay.
abetted.
Yeah.
I would not want to be on the Supreme Court right now and have to figure this one out. You know, I mean,
It's
that's
easy.
what
They
I'm
just
saying, is
do
it
what
all-
the Republicans want.
well,
you know,
no,
it's not easy stuff. I mean, but I also think that you know what we have made up our minds about, or most people have, or have a conversation about for 45 minutes or whatever. That's not how it's going to go there. I mean, you know, I think what's going to happen is, if you wanted to solve a constitutional question that really hasn't been tested, and you want to get to the bottom of it, I mean, what these folks are going to do, and their clerks, is, you know, they're going to go back and they're going to, you know, start with the statute, the amendment, and that's fine, but they're going to go to the debates that took place when the amendment was debated. They're going to look at the journals and the records from the House and the Senate and the state legislatures that argued over all that. They're going to look at the op-eds that were published in newspapers at the time by various people. I mean, this is what I would be doing if I wanted to know for sure as a historian. They're going to try to find out if there are personal letters and journals of people who were prominent leaders of the time, or who wrote the amendment, or, you know, et cetera, or who led it. I mean, you know, you know, the Federalist Papers, for example, don't apply here. Well, maybe, but I'm just saying they get quoted all the time in Supreme Court decisions, right? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, they're going to hearken back to things that they can look for as evidence to try to understand what people were thinking at that time. What was their intention? What was their purpose? You know, what did they have to say? Did anyone say anything about, if you pass this or if you don't pass this, one day someone will do something and this, that, and the other will happen, and then read that and say, wow, that sounds a lot like what happened with Trump. Here's what they had to say about it. You know, I mean, you might find that. I mean, I can guarantee you that the American Historical Association, the Organization of American Historians, you know, the Society for Historians of the Early Republic, they will all submit Friends of the Court briefs. I mean, I know they will, because they'll send me a copy. You know, I mean, they will all send a 50 or 60-page document to the court directly, and all three of them will probably be contracted by lawyers for both sides to write them academic, you know, not really, you know, papers, make, you know, they'll pay people to figure this stuff, help them figure this stuff out. So, I mean, it'll be a deep question. I mean, I honestly believe that. I mean, every historical record and account that we have from people inside the court say that that is stuff that they look for, you know, that they go round and round and back and forth with that kind of thing. So, I mean, as you said, I wouldn't necessarily want to have to do it either, because it's a hell of a lot of,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
and you're guaranteed not to make a lot of people happy.
Well, watch this now. Watch this now, folks. So what do you think, Alan?
Oh, I was just going to say he hasn't said nothing yet tonight.
Oh, he's gone.
Didn't he?
And Kevin too.
I have a question.
Kevin's
Trump
gone.
joke.
You have a question?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe. So, would it be? I don't know what the word is. Legal. I guess maybe that's not the word. Would it be copacetic for the court to say something like, "We are not going to allow this on a state-by-state level because of the turmoil it would cause in the country if half this a large number of states kicked him off of the ballot"?
Well,
Would that be
Let me give you another little argument here, and it's one I always come up with.
Oh.
But the question is, this is referring to the current the primaries coming up in those states, and whether he can be on the ballot in the primaries in those states. And the question is, show me somewhere in the Constitution that dictates that we should have primaries.
Well, we don't.
Okay.
Well, that's a good argument too, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because yeah.
I mean, I don't think
primaries aren't even designated in the Constitution.
I don't think the state should be allowed to have primaries as part of the constitutional process.
What am I going to do in March?
Boy, this is complicated.
Well,
this is complicated.
Go out and get drunk. What? You know?
March Madness.
St. Patty's.
I mean, there are a lot of
Basketball.
because
I
again,
just got called to commit.
you know, the system of electing the president specifically, but a lot of other offices, has evolved a great deal and is vastly different now than it was at the time this amendment, for example, was, you know, written in the ink, right? So, you know, that's what I'm saying is those questions will be asked. And look, not everything has a clear
also you're saying, but what we're saying here is that the amendment says that they can't hold public office, governmental office. Okay, but it didn't say they couldn't run, and they couldn't be on the ballot. They just said they couldn't take office.
If you want to get really down and nitpicky about the language.
Well, I mean, I'm bringing this up because these are all questions that are going to be asked, I would imagine.
I'd say that's what the court is going to be doing, is being nitpicky about every sentence or, you know, letter in that argument.
Yeah.
But they won't let a 25-year-old run for president.
But because that's specifically spelled out.
Well, just specifically spelled out about the insurrection, too.
But he hasn't been
They
convicted.
won't even let a 25-year-old
You have to be
on that.
convicted.
What you're saying, but your argument, they should be able to run. So what if they can't serve? They should be able to run. They should be on the ballot.
You have to be convicted of being 25.
See, I mean, let's face it. The original intention of this amendment, which obviously became part of the Constitution, but the reason for it is that they really wanted to have sanctions against those people who, got the war going and were heading up the war, and to make sure those people could never take office.
But if you really look at it, if you don't think that we were actually at war when Trump was in office, look at all the videos of all the people out on the streets and rioting and stuff. We were at war.
You can say
he caused a war.
You can say
he caused a civil war. That's what a civil war looks like nowadays.
But, how did he instigate the whole situation? I mean, I would say Giuliani did more to instigate it than he did.
I agree.
Who gave Giuliani who gave him the microphone?
And we said that a few minutes. We said that a few minutes ago about the language he used. Did he not say, "We'll go down to the Capitol,
and I will be there with you. I will."
And he said you have to fight like
I
hell.
I will go with you.
Yeah.
He said you have to fight like
all
hell.
his boys told him to turn the car around and go the other way.
Yeah, the only reason he wasn't at the Capitol is because the Secret Service physically restrained him from going.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, he said he was going to go there because I was driving up 101 North and I almost put my truck in the ditch when he said it. And I remember that.
My question is this.
Distinctly.
Let's say he could have gotten up to the Capitol. Do you think he would have gotten out of the limo?
Yes.
You do?
If they let him.
Yes.
Sure he would have.
Do you think?
I think he would have freaking walked right into the Capitol, into the rotunda and everything, and did everything that all the other people were doing because he would have been beat down by the people around him.
You're giving him credit for too much guts.
Maybe in the sunroof. Maybe he'd be out the sunroof.
No, I don't think he would have. It would have been a problem for him because all those people were backing him.
Yeah.
They would have surrounded him. And
I thought it was all Antifa there.
Stick your head out of the sunroof and wave hello to everybody.
He would have been walked down the freaking steps, you know, where they do the yearly thing where the president has entered. It would have just been that shaman or whatever they call it.
That's probably what he was hoping
the
for.
QAnon shaman would have been entering him down there.
Taking his Mussolini prose and everything. Yeah.
That's probably what he was imagining.
I don't know. I thought he was going down there.
And he was hoping that Pence was going to do the thing he wanted him to do.
Yeah. Vernon?
And it's almost better if he did do that. Then we know he would.
2 points.
Right.
2 points. 2 points.
Vernon?
One is that let's not lose sight of the fact that in order for an amendment to be part of the Constitution, it has to be passed by both parties of Congress by 2/3 vote and ratified by 3/4 of the states. That's point one. Point two, Trump may have wanted to go down to the Capitol, but in our country, being a country of laws, the president has no business going to the Capitol unless he's invited.
Right.
That's right. That's true. That's true.
But Trump didn't care about that.
Well, he didn't do it. Okay, so we can't argue it, you know. Yes, first of all, who had their hand up first?
Alan. So I haven't heard Alan's voice.
Alan did. And then Ray.
So I just wanted to, I'm sorry, just a lot of stuff going on here. I just wanted to say that I fully agree with what Charlie said, that it's in the Constitution, and it does not say you have to be convicted.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
You know, and so.
But it also doesn't say you can't run.
I think that was deliberate.
Yeah.
They deliberately.
And it may have been deliberate.
Ray?
What it says.
The
other thing, the way Trump always gets an out, and it's a very much of a mafia boss move, is he only gives little kernels of information. Let's go down there and fight like hell. Things that can be interpreted in many ways. And then he has people like Giuliani and his other henchmen really spell it out. But he never does it himself. That way he always has a little out, you know.
But when you're the leader,
I don't think he's that smart.
Just like
I think he is.
A true mobster does that too. Oh, I didn't put the hit on that guy.
I think he does it. I think something he's learned to do. He hung out around those people. He learned from those people.
Yeah, what a lot. You know, they came. Giuliani, I think, came up with it, the RICO Act, and it said that the top mobster, the boss, if anybody in his organization below him commits a crime, he's guilty of the crime.
That's right. That's why they're using the RICO Act over there in what state is that?
Absolutely,
Georgia.
Federally too.
Yeah, well, they're not. No one's used the RICO Act federally.
It's a federal law.
I'm just saying they haven't. Well, Georgia has their own RICO Act laws that are stronger than the federal.
I don't know. We'll see.
Laws. That's why she was able to do it.
They could do it in federal court too, but they just didn't. So,
yeah.
Well, it's a big step because it was made for organized crime.
And well, what do you call Trump? Organized crime.
Yeah.
Well,
no, I agree. But,
right.
Yeah.
I might agree.
I took it off.
Father Ray isn't with us tonight.
I defrocked myself.
Okay.
Well, you can go frock yourself so far as I'm concerned.
That's what I did.
Tried to, but my wrist hurts.
Yeah.
Josh had a good point, though. I'm not going to go rehash what he said, but he had a good point with what he was saying. So
Who? Josh?
Josh,
Yeah.
Josh.
Oh, yeah.
It's complicated. When you really like what Josh, all those things that Josh mentioned, it gets extremely complicated.
Well, they could have refused to take the case.
Oh
they
man,
didn't.
they didn't have much of a
They kind of
choice.
did at first, didn't they?
I'm trying to remember. No,
Because Trump was asking them not to.
not to
Hey,
take
for the what was it, the Colorado one, or
No, I think
it was the
no,
Colorado one. He was
what's his
asking them
name?
not to.
The guy who was running the case against him in Washington. What's his
Jack
name?
Smith?
Jack Smith. He has asked the Supreme Court for a ruling on whether Trump can be put on trial for this, to just get that out of the way, so that Trump doesn't have that argument going for himself. So, yes, Jeff.
I think, we can discuss and look at all the versions. You really still ultimately have 8 judges who have to make that decision for themselves.
Plus 4.
We don't have any sense.
9 judges.
9.
8.
Sorry.
Yeah, the 8.
9.
9.
I know we have 9, but I'm talking about the 8 Republicans. Or
No,
6.
there's 6.
I'm sorry,
Well, there's
6.
6 Republicans.
So anyway, I don't know what they're going to do.
For all we know, couldn't they do this, Josh? Couldn't they just say we're not going to take the case, or we decided we're not going to make a judgment on this? We'll let we'll let what went on in Colorado stand, and we're not going to enter into this. Can they do that?
Well, I mean, they've decided that they'll hear it, so they're pretty locked in now. It would be. I don't know that they've ever said they were going to take a case and then change their mind.
Yeah.
So they've said they're going to hear it, so they'll hear it, and then they'll, stick a judgment out there. And
Can't they still kick it back to the appellate court, though, even though they heard the case?
well, I mean, there's possibilities depending on the arguments, etc. I mean, they have the power. I mean, their judgment can be whatever they want it to be, if they have agreement on it. And I mean, they can say, they can revert it back to the Court of Appeals or whatever, and then say that if the Court of Appeals still says this, then that's that. I mean, they can sort of do it that way. But honestly, I mean, I think if it's gotten to them and the question is out there in multiple states, which it is, it'll just come back through another. I mean, personally, I think they'll just settle it because it needs done.
Because they'll make a ruling on it. Then
I think they will.
Well, I mean,
that's their job.
They've been so much. They have been accused of various things in recent weeks and months and last year, that they want to get themselves into a place where they're going to lose even more faith of the American public.
Yeah.
Clarence Thomas ought to recuse himself. His wife was a big part of the.
All right.
Yeah, she was texting the people in the White House the day it was happening.
And I would say too that I don't really know that it could change the things too. I would remember that the 14th Amendment also, and this language in here, one was partially, even though it doesn't say that in here, it was partially set up as a roadblock to help ensure that it was not easy for the former Confederacy, for the South, to easily put people back in Congress that could try to do things to work around or do away with the 13th Amendment, which did away with slavery. So it was somewhat of a protection for that. And it would be important to remember that when they passed it in 1866 and when it was finally ratified in 1868 by enough states to become an amendment, it was done by 3/4 of the states, and we'd have to dig into this a little deeper, but 3/4 of the states necessary who had rejoined the Union fully at that time. And not all of them had. So it was, you know, I don't think Georgia came back till like 1870, and that doesn't mean they weren't part of the Union again, but in a way they still weren't. They still weren't sending full delegations to Congress and things like that because they slow rolled their way back into the Union.
Was this law? Let me ask you: was this amendment passed without the ratification by those states that were involved in the Civil War?
Yeah, I can't speak for every single state, but yes, basically. I mean, that's the way the 13th Amendment was snuck through.
So you could say that law was that amendment was not fairly applied.
Those states voluntarily removed themselves.
No, they did.
Correct.
But I'm
Yeah,
saying
not-
that. But what you had was the states who were voting on this were states that were part of the
United
Union,
States.
as opposed to the Confederacy.
It was pretty similar to the passage of the 13th Amendment, which happened without the ratification from Georgia and South Carolina, and then because at the time that it was done, they weren't, by their own admission and by their own desire, they were not part of the United States. And then when the war was over and it came time to come back, we said, "Oh,
so
by
could
the way,
this
there's a new
Supreme
amendment.
Court come back and
while
say
you were away, we moved the furniture around"?
Could this court come back and say that amendment was made? That amendment was made by a bunch of states which were sympathetic towards it. Okay.
I don't think they will do that. And I mean, I don't think that they believe that that's a constitutional argument. I'm just saying that it's part of the equation.
Like, let me ask you this: look, when they made this amendment, they had to get 2/3 of the states to agree, right?
Three-quarters.
Is it 3/4?
It's 2/3 of the houses of Congress and 3/4 of the states.
Okay, 3/4 of the states. But was
via
that
their
3/4 of the states that were part of the Union, or 3/4 of all the states?
Part of the
Union. Of the states.
Hey, Illinois didn't get to vote for the Second Amendment, so it doesn't count.
Yeah, it was 3/4 of the states that were part of the Union at that time.
At the time, yeah.
You know, now readmission to the Union came with the price of, when you come back in, you're accepting the Constitution as it now is. As I said, while you were away, we moved the furniture around, and when you move back in the house, you can't move any of it anymore. Okay, you know, it is where we want it, and that's where it's going to stay. Again, I'm not making an argument that changes anything.
You can't apply.
Making a point that it is part of the equation.
Quickly, you can't apply, can you, to this case that this is that when the law was passed, when the amendment was added, it was a certain way. Now it's archaic.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't say that about a constitutional amendment, can you?
Right? No, because it's an amendment.
Because a lot of them are all archaic. I mean, the Second Amendment
is archaic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
no, it's law. I mean, the avenue for that is then change it.
Yeah, have another amendment.
You know, yeah, right. You know, so I mean, there's an avenue to go down for that problem. You know, so that's the argument there, and that happens to be the one that I agree with, by the way. But
yeah,
like I said, I'm not making the argument that helps Trump or hurts Trump. I'm just saying, if you wanted me to give you a 100%, this is what I think, these are my arguments, footnotes, the whole deal, it's not going to happen in an hour.
Right.
Know?
Exactly. Hey, I got the theme playing now, and look, we've been joined by Adrian. Hi, Adrian. How you doing? Oh, see, now she goes and hides.
I made her embarrassed.
You know what she's like. What she's like, Brian. She's like a cat you have that every time you get on a Zoom call, walks right in front of the camera. You know. Anyway, Jeff, thank you so much for being here tonight. We appreciate it. Josh, always good to have you here. And of course, Jason, you should call more often. You know, if your wife will let you.
Yeah.
Showing Charlie my Lions shirt because the Lions won.
Oh, Charlie.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
No, they didn't. He did not report.
When
Oh,
the refs got demoted, they won.
Since when did I turn this into a sports show?
Yeah.
Anyway,
When you won
thank
your-
you,
They
Charlie.
always
Thank you,
announce
thank
the
you,
numbers
thank
when
you,
a- when
Vernon.
a
Thank you,
lineman
Brian.
comes in.
Thank you, Adrian.
Still have faith. Faith. Keep going.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And thanks to Ray and thanks to Alan. All of you give a big wave goodbye, and I'll give a big wave goodbye at you. I can't even speak English tonight, so please. Anyway, let's listen. Amy Emanuel is next over most of the same GabNet. She'll be here with the intersection. She'll be taking your calls at GabNet Live on Skype. I'll see you again on Monday with the pop-up show, and then next Wednesday right back here, same time, same station in life. And in the meantime, if you see her, tell her I love her, okay? Good night, everybody.